All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan. I'm the pastor and executive director here.
We're getting claps already.
Claps already. Look at us. We're going big tonight.
Y'all know he hasn't done anything yet tonight, right?
Well, that's not true.
I said yet.
I brushed my teeth. I got a shower.
Oh, my word.
This is Noelle. She's our community director here. Good to be with you all tonight. Man, we're just a clapping bunch.
In all
tonight.
fairness, I haven't done anything yet either. So.
True. All right, y'all, to give you the reminder, this is a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here is break the silence of addiction and create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. And there's always one thing, as you know, that we don't do. You can shout it out on the count of three. Welcome to all of you online people, by the way. We're glad you're joining us tonight or throughout the week, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, and you can shout it out in your living room, whatever room you're in, you can shout it out. Don't make it creepy and awkward, but shout it out. 1, 2, 3. We don't do shame, but there are some other things happening that you might want to know about. Noelle's going to let you in the know.
Yeah, if tonight's your first night here with us, welcome. We are so grateful to have you. Get with a home team member or a free staff member, and we will get you hooked up with a welcome bag. And inside this welcome bag, it has a little bit about what we do here at Free Recovery Community. There is some fresh roasted wagon coffee, and a little bit about what wagon coffee does, and some other free swag items. So just know that we are so grateful that you're here with us tonight, and welcome. Next up, we are having our second annual free golf tournament at Arrowhead Golf Course on June 17th. It's a Monday. Woo! Yep, absolutely. We're still looking for some great auction items. So I don't know if you're like a manager at a Perry's Pizza and you have some gift cards to donate to the auction, that would be really great. Or just some other items. Just know that all the proceeds go to breaking the silence of addiction. So it's a great cause. But that's kicking off at 2 p.m. on that Monday, the 17th, and there's going to be
lots
dinner
of fun.
and awards. Yeah, you're not golfing though.
No, you know what? I'm not going to golf. I gotta, I'm going to be there though.
Right,
I'm going to be mingling with people,
Absolutely.
and so I might as well be golfing.
Nope.
Maybe not, but I'm going to be mingling with people.
Nope,
it's going to be all kinds of fun.
Yep. So we'll see y'all on the 17th. You can still register, and we're looking for those whole sponsors and some additional auction items. So please see one of us if that interests you. Lastly, we have a Save the Date. If you've been with us for a little bit, you were here for the Enneagram course that we had, it was probably 2.5 years ago now.
Yeah.
It was 3 weeks, and we had it in this room here. We have some incredible professionals. I mean, we had so many people signed up, and they did such a good job. It was somehow intimate in a large gathering. It was great. Yeah. So this year, we're doing it in August. It'll be 4 weeks starting on August 8th, so 4 consecutive Thursdays, 6 to 7:30 in this room. The first 3 weeks, it's going to be an Enneagram course. How many of y'all are familiar with the Enneagram? There's a bunch of you in there. If not, it's phenomenal. No Enneagram experience required, or if you're an Enneagram expert like Tammy Canaday, you're more than welcome to join us as well. So the first 3 weeks is going to be a course, and that's going to be $55. It's worth every penny. And then the last week, we're going to be doing a panel discussion. So it's the last Thursday of August. All are welcome to that, and it's free, and it's just going to kind of tie in all of what we've learned. Why is Enneagram important? And especially for someone who's in recovery or someone who is a loved one of someone in recovery. Yeah. So it's going to be a good month, but we just wanted to put it out there for the Save the Date. If this is something that interests you, mark your calendars for those Thursdays in August.
So if you had any vacations planned in August, go ahead and cancel them because you're going to want to be at this, I promise.
Yeah, this is what you're going to want to be doing in August, yep.
Okay, is that it?
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Noelle.
Oh, my word. Look at this.
All right, the way we get started here at Free on a Saturday night is with celebrations. We lift up the good. We start with the good. We take 3 minutes for this. It's a very important part of our time together. Something profound happens when we celebrate together. We believe God joins with us in the celebrations. Maybe you're celebrating a sobriety anniversary or a birthday or a new thing happening in your life or your recovery. There's nothing too big or too small. We want to celebrate it together. Again, for you online folks, drop your celebrations in the YouTube comments, the Facebook comments. We'll celebrate with you there. Nicole has a mic on this side. Mark has a mic on this side. And just go ahead and slip up your hand, and we'll take 3 minutes. This time is yours, y'all.
My name is Sarah. I have 231 days sober and a brand new job.
All right, Sarah. Way to go. 231.
My name is Levon, and on Wednesday I celebrate 18 months of sobriety. So I thought
18 months, Levon. Way to go, dude. Good to have you here tonight.
Celebrating my brother Saxon completed treatment last Wednesday. So he's been battling addiction for a while, and it's really good to see him on a positive path.
Yeah, he was here tonight. Way to go, Saxon.
I'm Abby, and I made it through 6th grade.
All right, Abby, that's a big accomplishment. I remember the 6th grade. Uh-huh.
I'm Robin, and my boss just told me on Thursday that I'm getting promoted this week.
Way to go, Robin. Congratulations.
I'm Kai, and I'm celebrating 435 days free of fentanyl.
Kai, 435 days. Way to go, Kai.
I'm Robert. Thank you very much. Leap year, I had to wait an extra day. Celebrated 1 year today.
Way to go, Robert. Congratulations, man.
I'm Charlie, and today's 7 months.
Way to go, Charlie. 7 months, man. Congratulations.
My name is Mark, and this last week, my youngest niece, my goddaughter, graduated high school.
All right, man. We'll celebrate that.
My friend Shannon got married today.
All right. Congratulations, Shannon.
Hi, I'm Rebecca, and I graduated from the Salvation Army program on the 15th.
All right. Way to go, Rebecca. We'll celebrate that. Congratulations. We got time for one more.
My name's Nicole, and I am celebrating that I am the first multi-unit partner for my company and also the first woman partner to be at an executive level.
Wow. Way to go, Nicole. Congratulations. Anyone else? I don't want to cut it short. You got 8 seconds. All right. Thank you, Mark and Nicole, for being the best mic passers we've ever had here at Free. Yeah, if you can give one of those to Miss Tammy Canaday. She's going to join me up here to join the online community. But can I share a celebration before we do that? Monday, in 2 days from now, is Tammy's birthday. Happy birthday. I'll sing later. I'll sing at home. She gave me the look. Yeah, we're going to go up and celebrate in the mountains for a couple days tomorrow and Monday. It's going to be fun.
I have something too.
You do?
Yes.
All right,
and
let's hear it.
And you know, Danny mentioned in the last service how, and maybe you'll say more about this when you share, but he was saying how when we have a day sober or an hour sober, we celebrate so big here. And it made me think how much I appreciate you guys, because I was at an event 2 weeks ago, and I shared that Ryan was 11 years sober, and they all looked at me, and it was like, Bueller?
It's a buzzkill?
Yeah, and I am like, I wish I was with my people. So I just want to say I love you all. I appreciate how well you celebrate each other here.
We know how to celebrate. That's a good one, yeah. All right, shall we join online people? You want the first one?
Sure.
Okay.
Erica, we miss you. David and I celebrate our 12th wedding anniversary tomorrow in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I love that. Come back
Way to
soon,
go.
y'all.
Happy anniversary, Erica and David. Woo-hoo. Mike says, celebrating that because of my sobriety, I get to spend time with my grandkids and watch one of them graduate from preschool and others play soccer all weekend. Yes, Mike, that's quite a celebration.
So
Glad
good.
you're here.
And Damien says, celebrating waking up another day.
Yeah, Damien, that's good stuff. We'll celebrate that.
That's it.
Okay, that was it.
Okay.
Thank you, Tammy, for joining me up here. Okay, 2 mics. Things are about to get real rowdy. All right, y'all, we are tonight starting a new 6-week series on emotions. We, for the next 6 weeks, are going to be free to feel. After that 6 weeks, we're going to go back to not feeling. No, I'm just kidding. 6 weeks, emotions free to feel. Tonight, the emotion is compassion. Emotions, compassion. So y'all do know that here in America, we are experiencing a disconnection epidemic. In fact, they tell us that 1 out of 3 U.S. adults say that they feel lonely and disconnected at least 1 day out of the week. And it gets worse. They tell us that 1 in 10 U.S. adults, 1 in 10 Americans, feel lonely and disconnected every single day of the week. And y'all, I can't help but wonder, is compassion the answer to disconnection? Now, according to the American Psychiatric Association, 89% of Americans said that showing someone else an act of kindness made them feel either significantly, somewhat, or a little better, which I find all kinds of hope in that, because apparently we as a people, we see needs and we find fulfillment out of stepping in to meet those needs with acts of kindness. That's a good thing. In fact, 90% said receiving an act of kindness made them feel those same ways. So kindness, compassion is a win-win all around. And here's what I know. We are a people who are motivated by, we are moved by human suffering. When we see other humans suffering, it does something to us on the inside. It brings about an emotion within, an emotional response. And see, decades of clinical research, they explored the psychology of human suffering, and they told us that the suffering, as unpleasant as it is, it often has this bright side to it, and the bright side, they say, is compassion. Compassion can simply be defined as the emotional response when perceiving suffering and involves an authentic desire to help alleviate that suffering. And did you know, over the past couple of weeks, as I was thinking about this topic of compassion, I came across a really interesting study. This study, they were asking the question, can infants feel the emotion of compassion? Interesting question, right? Here's what they found. When babies see someone in need, when infants see someone in need, when they see suffering, their pupils get larger. That's interesting, isn't it? When babies see that need being met by someone, when they see the suffering alleviated, their pupils all of a sudden get smaller, telling us that babies can indeed sense the emotion of compassion. And my brothers and sisters, I would ask you, when's the last time you encountered suffering in the world? And are you allowing yourself to feel compassion? Are you allowing yourself to respond to the emotion of compassion? Now, there's a book I want to recommend to you. It's a book by a philosopher and theologian. His name is John Philip Newell. He wrote a great book called The Rebirthing of God. Highly recommend it. In this book, he draws on Buddhist traditions, and he talks about the 3 pathways of compassion. And I want to share these with you because they are so ridiculously simple. And when it comes to compassion, I believe we have to keep it simple and see if y'all just don't love the 3 pathways of compassion, see if they don't make sense to you. The first one, John Philip Newell mentions for the pathway of compassion is to simply see. To see the other, see the suffering. See, compassion is about knowing the distance between you and me, them and us. In fact, he says compassion, it's like a compass. Now, not the kind of compass that you take hiking with you up in the mountains to tell which direction you're going, but do y'all remember in like the 4th or 5th grade in math class, you were given that metal object with 2 pointy ends, and on one of the pointy ends you could stick a golf pencil in it, and it measured the distance between the 2 points. Remember, you could actually draw the perfect circle with this compass. Engineers in the room, do you hear me on this one? Y'all love the compasses. Yeah, see, and it measures the distance, and compassion helps us determine how much distance is between each of us. You know, I was at the dynamic dinner last month. I know we had another dynamic last night. I wasn't there, but I heard they did the same exercise that we did the first month. At this dynamic dinner led by Ryan Fila, here we are gathered in a cafe, and in the middle of the session together, he had us do this really uncomfortable exercise, like so terribly awkward. He said, I want you to get with a partner, preferably someone you do not know, and sit across from them, just like inches away from them, and get comfortable. And he said, I want you to stare into each other's eyes. Yeah, nothing weird about that at all, right? Stare into each other's eyes, this stranger, and I thought we were going to do it like a few seconds, maybe like a minute, which would have been like awkward in its own right. No, we didn't do just a few seconds or a minute. We looked in each other's eyes for 10 minutes. Yeah, talk about getting uncomfortable. Talk about vulnerability. And we get done with this exercise, and he asks us to reflect on the exercise. And he said, do you see your connection with the other person? Do you see how connected we are? Because the truth is, our lives are profoundly interconnected. We are affected by the suffering that we see the other go through. We're bound through the brokenness. I mean, have you ever had that moment where you are watching a loved one, maybe a family member or friend, they're going through a very difficult time in their life, a moment of suffering, and it does something to you inside, doesn't it? I mean, so much so that hearing of their news, it can bring tears to your eyes. Some of you, your first instinct when you hear the news is you'll put your hand on your heart and you'll sigh. Yeah, it does something to you inside. But it's not just with people you know. It's not just loved ones. I mean, have you had that experience where it's people suffering on the other side of the world, people you've never met, you're never going to meet them, you don't know them from Adam? Like maybe you turn on the news and you see a natural disaster that's hit, and it's brought all kinds of tragedy and death and suffering, and it affects you. That's strange, isn't it? It can affect you so much, it can bring you to tears. It can make you put your hand on your heart and say, oh. Yeah, or you turn on the news and you see images or footage of war happening in Gaza and Palestine and Israel. You see war happening in Ukraine, and it somehow affects you. And are we paying attention enough to truly see people, to see that everyone has a story, to see what others are going through, to cut down the distance? The Cleveland Medical Center, they put together a really moving video, and I'm going to show you this video in just a moment. They put this video together, and they showed it to all of their nurses and doctors, and they said, we want to show you this video to remind you every time you work with a patient, be reminded they are people with real lives and real stories, and you never have the full story. You don't know what they're going through. Here's the video put on by Cleveland Medical Center. Yeah, see, everyone has a story. And are we paying attention enough to actually see them? And see, once we see people, once we see suffering, then the second pathway to compassion is to feel, simply feel the pain. When another person suffers, do I feel their suffering? And not in some sort of distant way, but do I feel the suffering almost as if it's my own wounds? And here's what happens. I know this is true for we adults, maybe not for babies and infants and kids, but what happens with adults sometimes is we can see the suffering and we can even begin to feel it, but then we shut it down because that feeling is just too intense. That feeling is just too scary, and I think intuitively we know where that feeling might lead us. It might lead us to the third pathway of compassion, which is actually to act. That you're putting the seeing and the feeling into action and actually doing something about it. You see, one of the greatest parables Jesus told, and one of the most well-known parables is this parable, this short story, commonly referred to as the parable of the Good Samaritan. Anyone remember this one? Yeah, we've talked about it here before. The parable of the Good Samaritan, it's a very simple story. It begins with a first century Jewish lawyer coming up to first century Rabbi Jesus and saying, Jesus, what must I do to get the fullest kind of life, the life that you say God offers to us? And Jesus says, well, I mean, you're the lawyer. I mean, what's the law say? You should know this. He says, yeah, I know that. The law says to love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind. And the second is like it, to love your neighbor as yourself. And Jesus looks at the lawyer and says, perfect. I mean, you know this stuff. Go do it and you're going to be just fine. And the lawyer says, no, Rabbi Jesus, you must understand, I've got an agenda here. And my real question is, who am I supposed to love? Who do I show compassion to? Who exactly is my neighbor? And then Jesus launches into this beautiful story. There's a man on the side of the road and he's suffering. He's injured. 3 people pass him by. The first person to pass by the injured man is a religious leader, a priest. And he sees the man suffering, maybe even felt a bit of the suffering, but not enough to stop and actually do something about it. He just keeps on his business. The second one to pass by is a religious leader assistant called a Levite. And he sees the man suffering. Maybe even he felt it a bit, but not enough to stop and actually do something. So he goes on with his business. The third person to stop by, do you remember? The text tells us the third person to stop by. But when he saw him, so seeing, he was moved with compassion. The Samaritan went to him acting and bandaged his wounds. And you say, well, wait a minute, what's the big deal about a Samaritan going to this man? Because you have to remember, in the first century Greco-Roman world, in the first century Jewish world, Jews hated Samaritans. I mean, they were considered the other. They were despised. They were totally hated. You would never be found in the presence of a Samaritan. You would certainly never touch them. That would make you unclean. You would certainly never touch their blood. That would make you unclean for many days. And the Samaritan goes to him. And keep in mind, Jesus is telling this story to a fellow Jew, saying that the Samaritan did a good thing, bandaging the wounds. You see, is our compassion bandaging the wounds of the world, even for the people that we struggle with the most. And you might ask the question, well, I don't know. I mean, did this man deserve compassion? I mean, we don't really know his backstory. Maybe he did some awful things. Maybe he got himself into this mess. Maybe he was even an addict and he got himself there. And does he deserve compassion? And here's what I know about compassion. True compassion is never bound by categories of deserving and not deserving. Now, here's what's fascinating. Keep in mind, the New Testament's written in Greek. Do you know the Greek word for compassion? Oh, it's this interesting word. Say it with me. Splagnizomai. Say it, splagnizomai. Isn't that a fun one to say? Splagnizomai is a verb describing the movement of the internal organs, the guts, literally meaning to be torn up in the guts. And this word for compassion, splagnizomai, is used 12 times in the New Testament. Every time Jesus talks about compassion, every time we have a story of Jesus showing compassion, it is not just a feeling. It is when the innards begin to stir enough to create some action. And if you're wondering tonight, well, out of all the emotions, why are we starting with compassion? Because how many people do you know around you that are dying to simply be seen? I mean, how many people around you are dying for someone to come along and feel with them? How many people around you have wounds that you know can only be healed through human connection? I want to look at one other text. It's short. It's only 2 verses. It comes from Mark's Gospel, the very first chapter. We're told a man with a skin disease approached Jesus. And let me pause for just a moment. In the first century Greco-Roman world, if you had a skin disease, you were completely cast out. You were marginalized in society. Religious leaders would have looked at you and said, you have that skin disease because God is getting you back for something. You've committed a great sin, so God is judging it. And if it wasn't you, it was one of your family members, and you deserve this. And again, you would never touch this person. You wouldn't go into their presence because you wouldn't want that disease to spread. And check it out, a man with a skin disease approached Jesus, fell to his knees, and begged, and Jesus sees him. If you want, he says, you can make me clean. Jesus was filled with splagnizomai, compassion. He feels. So Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man. He acts. And do you see, you read all these stories in the gospel, Jesus never started with questions about, does he deserve it? What did he do? What didn't he do? Jesus always starts with compassion. And how many of y'all, you know exactly what this story is about? When you were dead and dying in your addiction, you fell to your knees, you begged God, God, please, how come you won't just make me clean? God, how come you won't get me sober? And part of you expected to encounter a God who was a little bit disgusted with you, a little bit ashamed of you, a lot disappointed in you, and then you actually got clean and sober and into recovery, and maybe you encountered the God who was actually filled with compassion, and this God reached out his hand. Splagnizomai. Because this God was torn up in the guts at the sight of your suffering. Do you remember your story? Do you remember the grace and compassion that was extended to you, the hand that was reached out? I remember my sobriety birthday, January 7th of 2013. It was the moment right after my wife, Tammy, came down the stairs and she confronted me with another empty vodka bottle. And then she went back upstairs and I'm standing there at the kitchen counter filled with so much shame. And I'm begging God, God, help me. God, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this on my own. And today I can tell you I take great comfort in the God whose guts were torn up at the sight of suffering. You see, do you remember God's hand of compassion extended to you, the God whose guts were torn up at your suffering? Do you remember your story? You know, I had very terrifying experiences just prior to getting sober. I was just appointed to a new church, serving as a pastor, and I would have people, they would talk to me or email me, and they'd say they'd want to meet with me in my office, and then they would begin telling me about the struggles they were going through with drinking or with using. And man, I can tell you, as an active alcoholic, serving as a pastor, I'm thinking, why are you coming to me talking about this? Man, this is really uncomfortable. And as an active alcoholic, I had nothing to say to them because I was so filled with shame. I was so filled with the thought of, I hope you never really see me. And I can tell you, I didn't know how to see them. I didn't know how to feel their suffering because it brought up too much of my own stuff. And so I didn't know how to act. did not allow myself to be torn up in the guts. The only thing that was tearing up my guts was the booze that I was putting into my body. As an active alcoholic, I had nothing to say to them. And isn't it interesting? People just expect clergy, like, oh, they must have something great to say about this. Maybe some of them do, maybe some of them don't. I know when I was active in the disease, I did not. And do you know what happened a couple of months after? I was still just a couple of months at this new church, and I'll never forget this Sunday night where this woman, she came up to me, and she had in her hand a folded piece of paper, and she placed it into my hands, and I unfolded this piece of paper, and it was her phone number. And I thought, well, this is incredibly awkward because I'm a married man. Why are you giving me your phone number? And do you know what she said to me? She looked me square in the eyes and she said, I want you to know I'm an alcoholic in recovery, and I've been sober for 5 years now, and my sponsor told me to come talk to you, and I want you to have my number because if you talk to anyone in the community, in this congregation who's struggling with alcoholism, I want to make myself available to walk with them. Whew. Man, I wasn't even sober yet. I thought maybe she knew my story. And I remember thinking to myself, man, this is noble of her, a cool thing she's doing, but why is she doing this? Doesn't she know her story is going to get out? People are going to see her mess. Why is she doing this? And I now know that she was able to see, feel, and act because she had been there, because she had had a spiritual awakening because of the results of her recovery. And do you remember what a spiritual awakening is? The 12 and 12 steps and 12 traditions, it defines it as when a man or woman can do, feel, and believe that which they could not do, feel, and believe before on their own unaided strength. She was doing, acting in compassion. And still I thought, but I'll never be able to do that. I will never be able to let people in on my mess. No one's ever going to know my battle with alcohol. And here's this woman standing before me who's been free because of compassion, because I believe compassion sets us free. But I'll never be able to do it. And today I can tell you, as an alcoholic in recovery, today I can see, feel, and act. I have compassion for the one who is still struggling, for the alcoholic, the addict who is still struggling. Why? Because I've been there. I know what that suffering is like, and I had people show me the way out, and I know the way out. You see, where have your experiences brought you? Where are your guts being torn up on the inside when you see that suffering? Where are those places? And I will remind you, there are people fighting battles that you know nothing about. Maybe because we haven't paid enough attention, but there are people going through things that you don't even know. And there's a lot of suffering in the world, and you cannot care about all of it. I know it sounds kind of harsh. You can't care about all of it. There's too much. It'll be too heavy. You will experience compassion fatigue very early on. But where have you experienced those places? Where has your life, your experiences brought you? Where are your guts being torn at the sight of that suffering? Move towards those places. And I will remind you, if you want to act on the very powerful emotion of compassion, you will have to be seen. It's who we are here at Free. It's why we do what we do. In fact, just to look at two of our values, look at new life. Why do we call this place Free? Because we get the opportunity of new life. Why? Because grace, compassion, love, and forgiveness, these are the things that set us free, and they're always freely given by God. And authenticity. We create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. We will show up, be real, and shine our light in the darkest places so that others can be found. And I would remind you, authenticity is a great act of compassion. Why compassion? Because how many people around you are dying to be seen? How many people around you are dying for someone to come and feel with them? How many people in your midst have wounds that can only be healed by human connection. So what I want to do with you now is play a song. Danny Colella, he's our digital content director. Is he in here right now? Where's Danny? He must be out drinking some coffee. He'll be in a minute. He's our guest storyteller tonight. Danny has been a great model of compassion for me, so I invited him to come and tell the story. And he was the first person we hired here at Free about 4 years ago. He was the first one we started working with. He started creating images and digital content for us. And about 2 years ago, I get a text from Danny Colella. There he is. And he sends me this song, and he says, hey, you got to listen to this song, because this song just kind of captures who Free is. I mean, this is what we're about. And this song is called Truth Be Told by Matthew West. Take a moment and reflect on compassion in your life. Here it is. first name without saying his last name, because his last name is all kinds of fun to say. Colella. Yeah, you're going to be saying that one all night, just like Splagnidzamai. Here's why I invited Danny to come share. Danny has become a dear friend of mine. He is, as I told you, he was the first person we brought on board here at Free, and he was always, from day one, he always has reminded me to, hey, we got to lead with compassion. We got to lead with compassion. And sometimes, you know what I love is I get to watch people like Danny and other staff members, Carrie and Jerome over here. They'll go to conferences or we'll do presentations together, and they'll talk about Free to other people, and I get to listen in, and every time I hear them talk about Free, it like reminds me who we are. And Danny has this great line when he's talking to people. He said, yeah, you go to like other places, you go to churches and stuff, and they lead with like the pretty, and everything looks so together, but at Free, we lead with our shit. It's how we do compassion. We lead with our shit. And I'm like, yeah, there's something so true about that. Help me welcome my friend and brother Danny Colella into the living room. You got a mic? All right, man. Welcome back, Danny Colella.
Glad to be here again.
Does anyone else say your name, your last name?
No, nobody has as much fun as you.
I'm going to just keep having
I'm
that
delighted at the amount of fun you have.
It's been going on for years, and I don't plan on stopping it anytime soon. All right, we're going to jump into part of why Danny's here. Danny has spent the several years, I don't know how many years, you can tell us, but several years in what's called the addiction and mental health industry. And just tell us a little bit about how you got into what they call the industry.
Yeah, so I fell into this industry. It wasn't something I was looking for. When I moved to Colorado, I got a job at a place called Centennial Peaks Hospital up in Louisville. Psychiatric hospital with 13 beds of detox. And when I came to this industry, it was scary. Like everybody, all you people in recovery, I was pretty sure that if I talked about drinking around you, you were going to relapse. I was pretty sure that if I did anything wrong, so it was just really uncomfortable. I had to learn to be in the room. And you know, mental illness was also uncomfortable for me, but it took some time of me being here. I had this period, and I still hold on to this, where I was in the real world, and I had the real world mentality. The real world doesn't understand addiction and mental health, right? It's uncomfortable, they don't get it, and that was me. Everybody who drinks here, my thought was, why don't you just stop? Like, just stop. You're ruining your life, just stop. And it's important to remember that, because that's what the real world still sometimes thinks. They don't have our perspective, and you know, working at that hospital was a great experience. It opened something up in me, and I can just say I've never been more affected by anything I've ever done in my life except for this industry. Everybody that I've met is the most authentic person who deals with their shit, who isn't afraid of who they are, and that's refreshing. What if the whole world were like this? So it just started this journey of, I knew I was doing great things at the hospital, but I needed to start telling the story to the me's before I came into the industry on what this was, because I knew they didn't get it, and that's what I've been doing ever since.
Yeah, tell us about, was his name Jose?
Gabriel.
Gabriel. Where did I get Jose?
I don't know.
Tell us about Gabriel.
Yeah, so early on when I was in this industry, I met this guy named Gabriel Romero. He worked at a treatment center. He was in the sales department. And I remember sitting with this guy at lunch. And the very first meeting that I sat with this guy, he told me about his 2 felonies. And I remember thinking, wow, that's odd to lead with that, like in a business meeting. This is real world, old school Danny coming through. And I just remember feeling how odd that was. And it's such a cool story because it was like almost a year later, and I had this light bulb moment, and I went back to that moment, and I was like, oh my God, he shared that because he's not afraid of it anymore. It's who he was in addiction, but it's not who he is in recovery. And it was such a powerful experience to connect those dots as somebody that just kind of moved into this industry, of knowing that the reason he shared that, because up to that stage of my life, I have 2 DUIs in my life. And all I got to say is that shit owned me. Owned me. There were jobs I didn't go after because I knew I was going to have to talk to HR about it. and I was so afraid that if people found out this detail about me, what it would mean about me. And it was at that moment when I finally got that it was like I was able to jump over that, and it was powerful for me. And it was all from that experience with him and the authenticity. And he led with his weakness, but only because it isn't who he was anymore. Isn't that powerful?
Dude, that's recovery.
Yeah.
Speaking of recovery, tell us, you gave us a metaphor last service at the 5 o'clock of the burning down the house. Tell us the burning down the house metaphor.
Yeah, this is how I explain to any of my friends or people that I know about what recovery really is. So I always use the analogy of the house. In the real world, dealing with your real emotions, everybody has a room upstairs, okay? It's the upstairs of their house. All their emotions, they get to push it in there and shoulder the door shut, and they get to keep all their emotions in this room, and they pray to God nobody finds it, and most people do a pretty good job at keeping that room shut, but it's overflowing at times. People in recovery, and I mean this, you've been given a real gift, because people in recovery, if you've gone through treatment or anything, you're essentially asked to burn that house down to the ground and build a new one over here. You don't get the luxury anymore of just shutting doors, right? You're asked to burn the house all the way to the ground and build another one. And I want everybody to know that's gone through recovery, that is a gift that the real world won't get. People will die with that shit in the room that they never get to bring up. But for any of you that have gone through this, you've built a brand new house. And isn't that powerful?
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
So tell us, Danny, you're always reminding me to lead with compassion. For you, what is compassion, and what would you say is, how do you say free is different, or we do it differently because, and how do we do it differently?
So compassion really comes down to this place, in that our bond is our brokenness. And everybody who comes here isn't afraid to be broken. I just had a great conversation with a friend over here who's here because life is difficult. And this is a place where you get to come and be broken and have things that you're not proud of that you can share with other people. And that experience at this place is what really drives compassion. Yeah. That's the ability that I know everybody in this room who's here right now, if somebody walks through that front door with 1 day of sobriety, you all can handle it perfectly. You know what to do, you know what to say, because you've lived it, right? You've done it. You've either loved someone or been through it yourself. And that is the differentiator at this place, is that compassion is from lived experience. It's from doing the thing. It's from being in those moments. It's compassion from knowing that somebody is living whatever your worst day in addiction was, somebody's living that moment right now. Somebody's in that space right now, whatever your worst day was. And I know this room knows that and can handle that. And I've been in traditional religion in the past, and nothing really bad to say about it, other than sometimes it feels like there's a lot of people on Sunday that pray to God people don't find out who they are on Monday through Saturday. It's a lot of looking good. And what I love about this place and why this place is so unique is because we don't have to look good, right? Everybody, I just saw somebody that I told everybody's fucked up. Everybody here has shit. And that's powerful because that creates space for somebody else to bring their stuff. And that's what makes this place so unique.
Yeah, yeah.
So unique.
So, Dan, any video you see or image you see that's created by Danny as our digital content director. And do y'all remember that little blip we had in history back in 2020, a little thing called COVID-19? Mm-hmm. So many for us, and I realize it was a time of suffering. There were some really hard moments in that, but there were so many blessings that came out of that. One of the blessings that came out of that was Danny had just started. We had just started producing video, and everything's closed down. So Danny would invite me into his basement, which he corrected me last service.
Yeah, it got a little awkward when I invite people to film in my basement. So we started calling it a home studio. It went over a little better.
It was really awkward. It was his basement with a green screen, but yeah, a beautiful home studio. And we would film these videos, and in the early days of Free, I would show up with this. We weren't doing Reels yet. Y'all know what Reels are, the 60-second videos. We were just doing short videos. And I would have a beautiful script that was like perfectly crafted, perfectly worded. And he would stop me in the middle of it and say, hey man, yeah, that's good, that's pretty, but you have to speak to people as if it's their first day of the worst day of their life, and you have to speak to them. You have to remember your last day of the drink and speak to them as if that's them. And he would always give me the reminder to speak to them through that lens of compassion, to remember what it was like. And can you just say how that kind of drives your, I know Free is not, we're not the only people you work with. You have people doing video all over. But how does that drive it for you? How does compassion actually drive the work you do with digital content?
Yeah, I take my job pretty seriously, and it's because of where I came from and not understanding what it was. And anybody here who's battled addiction, you understand that you fought it pretty hard, didn't you? Like, you didn't want to believe it. You didn't want it to be your truth. You didn't want it. You weren't just waiting, somebody come fix me. No, you were going to wait till you got to the end. So when I left Centennial Peaks Hospital, I knew I needed to do more. I knew I needed to make an impact, and I knew social media was a way for me to start making my impact. And my little, we call it avatar in the business, my little avatar that I always envision when I'm creating video or I'm coaching Ryan or anybody else I work with is I envision that somebody is in their bedroom at night, laying sideways, it's dark, nothing but the light of their phone is lighting up their face, and they're just waiting for somebody to show up for them. They're just waiting for somebody to tell them that they're not crazy, that there's a way out, that whatever they're battling, they can get through. And it's from that lens that I create everything that I do. Because I know that is a place where we get to connect to somebody who views a video at a moment in which they're ready to take it. And it's a lot better than saying, hey, something's wrong with you. You should probably go to treatment. It's that moment in which somebody is on their own and they're alone and they're in that spot where they're open and they themselves make the decision, maybe I have a problem and maybe I need help. And it's from that lens that I truly make my impact in the world. And I've gotten to work with a lot of people at Free and a lot of people outside of Free. And I truly believe when it comes to video, there's not one video that I can make. If I had $100,000, it's not going to change the world. But what I do know is for each of you that step up and tell your story about what you've been through, I do know that you're going to hyper affect your social circle. And people that you didn't even know are battling this in your life, when you share what you've been through, they're going to be like, hey, this is what's going on. They're going to send you a private message through social media to talk about, this is what's going on, this is what I'm battling. And you become a trusted person for somebody in your life to talk about this. And for anybody that's done this, I have this saying all the time that I talk about, and I say, only big people can be small for other people. Small people got to try to be big. Like, I got this figured out. I'm cool, I'm fine. Just like the song we listened to, I'm fine. But only big people can drop down and be small. And what we have in this community is a lot of big people, right? A lot of big people who talk about what they've been through, who openly talk about their struggles. We had a mom that talked about on video breastfeeding her daughter while she was on drugs. Isn't that probably feels embarrassing, but it's not for her. And when she says that on video to somebody who's doing that right now, guess what they feel? Less ashamed.
Yeah.
It's not just them. They're not battling alone anymore. And that's what I do when I tell people, like, if we're going to do video together, I say, what is it that you prayed to God people would not find out about you when you were in the depths of addiction? What is that thing? Let's talk about it. Because that's owning somebody right now.
And dude, you're right with those videos. Andrew Swinson, he might be watching tonight. Andrew, if you're on here, dude, I'm sharing part of your story. He did a letter to your addiction, and remember, he was scared to do it. He wanted to have the perfect words, and he said that was the thing. He then shared it on his social media platforms, and he says it changed his life. He had people, friends from high school reaching out to him, and he was giving hope through his story, a very powerful thing.
Yeah, and it comes down to the values we created, right?
Yeah.
These are all important values that are around you. These aren't just words. These are ways in which this place works.
Yep.
And it happens in everything we do.
Yeah. And tell us, because we'll close with this. I sometimes use Danny as the scapegoat because Danny comes up with these ideas. Like, he came up with the F-fentanyl idea, the campaign we did last summer. And I said, yeah, it was good, wasn't it? Is anyone wearing a shirt? Oh, look at Mimi. She's got a shirt in the front
Front
row.
and center.
You're the second one tonight I've seen wear that shirt. But I said, yo, man, if I get a call from, the higher-ups, and I got to blame it on you, and you came up with this idea, and it was such a powerful idea, so impactful, but it was the why behind it that made it more impactful. Can you share about that?
Totally. There's a couple of things I care a lot about. Anybody battling addiction that feels like they don't accept, anybody that's battling any religion mishaps that they've gone through in their life. So I tend to fight it pretty hard, right? So if we say, fuck fentanyl, you're going to feel like this place is probably a little different, right? I'm always thinking about ways in which we can kind of break barriers, but there's a big reason why we wear the fuck fentanyl t-shirts, okay? And I want to give you a little bit of vision about that because that's what this place is about. So when somebody has a loved one, anyone in their life that has overdosed from fentanyl, their neighbors totally love them. They want to love them, but you know what they don't know what to do? How to talk to them. They don't know how to accept that. That's jarring. That's tough. When we wear the fentanyl t-shirts and we go out in public, we create space for somebody to walk up to us who has been adversely affected by fentanyl, and they get to give us a little piece of their story because we can handle it, can't we? We can handle that story. Yeah. And every time we wear it, we're letting somebody in public know that we're safe. They can come up, they can give us a little bit about their story, and we can accept it with grace, and then they get to heal just a little bit more. Yeah. And that's truly the message behind why we wear these t-shirts in public. It's not about you. It's never going to be about you. Everything that we do is about somebody out there right now that is not here, right? There are people watching online that are scared to death to walk through these doors, right? And I said this last service because people were counting how many F-bombs I said. But it used to be so cool at this place, and this has a lot to do with this guy in leadership, is we would tell people, if at any point in your addiction and you felt lost and you didn't know where you were going, and you thought to yourself, fuck you, God, say it on stage, out loud. Because somebody's battling that. It's okay. Any good pastor or preacher will tell you it's okay to have doubts. So if your doubt at that time was, fuck God, that's okay, because that's how you felt. And someone else is feeling that same way right now as well.
Yeah. And I said this last service too. My wife Tammy was wearing her Fuck Fentanyl t-shirt at King Soopers. I should have just said grocery store. Didn't mean to say the name. At a local grocery store just this week, and she had a very interesting conversation. Someone that was not happy with her about wearing this shirt, and she was able to drop the line to this guy. She said, sir, do you know 110,000 people died last year in this country of an opioid overdose, most of which contained fentanyl? That is another reason why we do what we do, because people are dying, and that's why we're going to talk about it. That's why we're going to keep talking about it. Danny, I wanted to read just a couple of comments. Where did they go? Anyway, Monty was on there, and he said, Danny introduced me to Bree. Bree Griego is joining us from Southern California. Says that has actually happened with me on Instagram with people I've never met, and it's so beautiful. I'm assuming she's talking to, sharing her story. I know she's been very vocal and bold about sharing her story, and it just continues to change lives.
Yeah, I mean, early on, I've always fought this, let's keep this in the church basement. I know that it's part of the story, but I find that more people get healed when we share what we've been through.
Yeah.
It doesn't make anybody weak. It doesn't make anybody less. All it does is remove shame from somebody in your circle. Yeah. That's all it does. And again, I don't think I can make one video that's going to change the world, but I do know I can help you tell your story in a way that allows for people that are looking for anyone that they can trust with that to say that to you. And that's the beginning of people. Sometimes just getting it out of their mind and saying it to another human being, that's the beginning of someone else's journey. And we have to care deeply. It's wonderful that you're all in this room. It's fantastic. But there are a lot of people that aren't.
Yeah.
And we got to care deeply about that as a community.
Danny, thank you for being so invested in the mission here. And I'll tell you all this, we have some really exciting news to share with you in just a couple of weeks. It's going to be all kinds of fun. It's like all hands on deck type of thing, so be ready for it. We're going to share that news in a couple of weeks. But Danny Colella, ladies and gentlemen, give him a round of applause. Thanks, brother. You know what? I'll take that. All right, thank you, Danny. All right, y'all, the way we close here on a Saturday night is very similar to how we begin. We open with celebrations. We celebrate the good, but we close with what we call heartaches. These are burdens that you've maybe been carrying throughout the week, and we do that sometimes, don't we? We try to carry these burdens by ourselves. We try to bear the burden alone. And I want to always remind you, you don't have to do it alone. It's why you have community. It's why we have a God who hears the cries of the people. And so maybe you're here tonight and you just need to get that burden. You need to put some words to it. Get it off your shoulders. And if you need prayer, some encouragement, some lifting up, I encourage you to share. And again, if you're online on Facebook or YouTube, just drop your heartache in the comments and we will heartache with you there. Nicole and Jerome will be passing around a mic. We'll take 3 minutes for this. You can just raise up your hand, and this time is yours.
Hey guys, it's Mimi. I had a seizure for the first time ever on last Friday, and another one on Saturday night. And they don't think it's alcohol related. They think it's something wrong with my heart or my brain. So I have to have all sorts of tests and a heart monitor, and not allowed to drive or cook over a hot stove or go swimming or really be by myself. So could use some extra prayers.
Goodness. Prayers for you, Mimi. We're lifting you up. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Chris. I asked last week, and I'm just asking again this week for prayers for my little sister. She's 21 years old, and she's battling a pretty bad fentanyl addiction. So just pray for her if you could.
Prayers for your sister, man. I'm glad you're here, Chris, lifting her up tonight.
I'm Abby, and like during like the last week of school, I was feeling like I wasn't like gonna be able to like go like to 7th grade because my grades were so bad. It was bad.
All right. Thanks for sharing that with us, Abby. Prayers for you.
And my name is Melanie. I just want to hold up for a loved one whose family is just dealing with a potentially hard time. Just lifting up his daughter and his family. And so, yeah, that's all.
Yeah, lifting them up. Thank you, Melanie.
Yeah, my name's Mark. Tomorrow will be the month anniversary of my father-in-law's passing. And he affected our family greatly, and in a way it is a celebration because the man died with 38 years of sobriety and he died sober, but our family is feeling the loss, and so I'm going to keep Nathan Pollock in your prayers. Thanks.
Lifting him up, and yeah, sometimes those joys walk along with the heartaches. Thanks, Mark.
My name is Sarah, and my new job has been a double-edged sword. My old job is kind of trying to put me through hell, and so just trying to get through that and on to the next best thing.
Yeah. Lifting you up, Sarah.
My name is Kelly. My mom got a mammogram recently, and there were some suspicious lumps, so she's going to get a biopsy on Tuesday, so prayers for her.
All right, prayers for Mom. Glad you're here. Got time for one more if anyone has a heartache. All right, thank you, Nicole and Jerome. Jerome, you want to join me up here? Jerome, ladies and gentlemen, our community ambassador in the house. Hey, also, last service, a lot of people were coming up to me asking me questions about the golf tournament. I'm the wrong one to talk to. I'm going to direct you to Jerome since he's leading that. So if you've got questions about our annual fundraiser through this golf tournament, talk to Jerome. He can answer all of your questions. All right, Jerome, should we join our online people?
We shall.
All right. You want the first one?
Mark, as my 84-year-old mother fell last night and broke her hip, but after successful surgery this afternoon and her recovery is underway, there is still heartache that is attacking my family as my sister and I are at odds with each other. I know it breaks Mama's heart. I pray that we can get through this, and this is all she truly wants. To God be the glory. Lifting you up, Mark.
Yeah, lifting you up, buddy. Glad you're joining us tonight. Yvette says, please pray for my husband, Teray, who is having some physical health challenges. We are super grateful we are able to watch the service online. Yvette and Teray lifting you up. Teray, Yvette, prayers for you. Glad you're with us tonight.
Trudy, my daughter struggles, and a mom who loves her feels lost and not able to guide her. I need prayer she can find the strength.
Yeah.
Lifting you up, Trudy.
Trudy, prayers for you and the fam. Shirley Colella, which is Danny Colella's wife. Is Danny, did he just leave? So proud of you, Danny Colella. Your passion, heart, and love for this community is so authentically beautiful. Yes, I agree with you, Shirley. Thanks for sharing that with us. And I didn't even get to say hi to you tonight. I know you were here at the 5 o'clock. And hi, Shirley. I'm glad you were here. All right, thank you, Drum. Appreciate you, brother.
You got it.
All right. Well, listen, if you have been impacted by the mission of breaking the silence of addiction, I hope you know we rely on your generous giving. We encourage generous giving here at Free. I know many of you have given sacrificially. You make it part of your life. You give as a spiritual practice, and it's part of your life. And we're really grateful for it. The first way you can give is to download the app. It's free to download, the Free Recovery Community, and there's a giving button. You can give one time or weekly, monthly, however you want to do it. Same exact thing on our website. You can click the giving button and you can give monthly, weekly, one time, however you want to do it. And there's 2 giving kiosks, one just outside these doors, one just outside these doors for you cash and check type people. And again, really grateful for your giving here. It truly makes a difference here. It is the way we are funded by you, the people. So it truly makes a big difference. Oh, and I don't want to forget the dip jar. Have I told you all about the dip jar? The dip jar sits on a table just outside these doors, and it's a very fun way to give. You just take your credit card and you dip in, then you dip out, and then the thing lights up and it makes you feel good. And listen, you can't give more than $20 or less than $20 because the thing is set at $20. That doesn't mean you can't dip 1 or 2 or 3 times, however many you want to do it with every credit card you have. We appreciate it all. Now, on the real though, we're just really grateful for your giving. It truly makes a difference here. So thank you for being a part of it. All right, shall we go out with a prayer? Yeah. I would just invite you to open your hands for a moment. There's nothing magical in opening your hands. It's just a simple sign of openness. As you become aware of your breathing, the openness that takes place with your breathing, the hands open to Spirit moving and breathing life in us, through us, and all around us. God's presence is everywhere. And if you don't know the St. Francis prayer, it's a beautiful prayer. We'll pray it together. If you don't know it, it's on the screen, and it goes like this. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in parting that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen. Grace and peace to you, my brothers and sisters. See you next time.